Jeff Short began his career in 2000. He worked for a one-man band, and it was just doing one simple house. It was just supposed to be just a little simple job. He was going to help this guy out. Well, he developed a love for the electrician trade, the electrical industry. He really, really liked it. He passed his journeyman test in November 2004 and graduated from IEC in May of 2005. Very excited. He was very, very proud of himself. His wife was very, very proud. Throughout his whole career, he always wanted to do it bigger. He wanted to do it better. He pushed himself. He challenged himself. And he actually found a friend in Keith Kroll.
He reminded me a lot of myself many years ago. And I always seem to pick somebody that I want to take and put my arm around and hold on to that guy and teach him what I know.
Keith wanted to teach Jeff about the industry, teach him everything he knew so that Jeff could then go on to run a job of his own. He really saw something in Jeff, and Jeff was very appreciative of that. And as his career progressed, he tended to lean toward doing the same thing, getting the new guys, helping them out, teaching them the ropes, teaching them about policy. He was a big policy man. He was a big safety guy. You know, was very, very passionate about safety.
That's the type of person Jeff was. If he was walking through the building and he seen somebody using a ladder improperly, it didn't matter if that guy worked for me, if he worked for Kurt, another supervisor on the job, it didn't matter. Jeff pointed that out.
I asked him to come to our sister's house and do a little electrical work. It was just me, him, and my sister there on one Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I mean, and he come walking in, he had on his safety glasses, his hard hat, he had his leather gloves and his tool belt, everything. I'm like, Jeff, what are you doing? I mean, you're at Missy's house. You don't need all this.
Just to do a simple job at home, you know, hanging a ceiling fan or, you know, changing a receptacle, he would strap on his tools, take all the safety precautions, and she was just like, you know, you're at home. It's okay, you can relax. And he's like, no, this is serious business. This is electricity, and you don't play around with it.
They kind of nicknamed Jeff and kind of teased him a little bit. He was Mr. Safety. But Jeff was doing his job. Jeff would come to me and say, hey, you need to get on so-and-so. He's not wearing his gloves all the time. Or, hey, you know, I went up and spoke to... Jeff was not shy. Jeff would get up there and say something to somebody, but, you know, if the guy kind of, you know, okay, and put his gloves on, and the next day he was, you know, well, my gloves are right there, I wasn't wearing them or whatever. So Jeff would come to me and say, hey, just, you know, mention it and pass it, and he needs to talk to him. So he was always another set of eyes.
He was Mr. Safety. He did everything right. And if you did something that wasn't right, he was going to let you know. I had a bad problem not wearing gloves and stuff, and every time I didn't have gloves on, he let me know.
I always considered Jeff a true believer, and by true believer would be a guy that I know that even when I wasn't around or somebody else wasn't around, he was doing the right thing.
Jeff was a guy that I didn't feel like too many times I'd ever have to go really check on him, because I knew that he was going to be doing what he should be doing.
It was a Thursday. It had been raining the previous days, and there was a job that he needed to get done at another hospital just a couple of blocks away from where he was. And he called his wife and said, hey, since it's not raining, I'm going to go ahead and go over there and get that finished up. He'd started the job on Saturday with Keith, and, you know, they got it as far as they could get it. He was going to go finish it up.
Thinking as an electrician, you know, he was either feeling rushed that he wanted to get it done and get home. Maybe he didn't want to come back on the weekend and work on it. Maybe he thought he was being a great employee by going ahead and getting the job knocked out.
Jeff was one of those guys that if he felt like he could do it himself, a lot of times that's what he would do. He would sit there and go, you know, if I do this now, then we don't have to worry, you know, I don't have to worry about Keith, don't have to come back. Keith, I'll take care of it.
The intention was for him to get it to a certain point of connecting power, stop, come back the next evening with Keith, They were going to disconnect power at the breaker, do the lockout, tagout, and then go in and finish the job, do that without the hot work, because, you know, hot work is kind of frowned upon unless it's absolutely necessary.
I think it was extra effort that he believed he was putting in, and he probably thought the risk factor was very low on what he was working on.
Nobody knows what Jeff was thinking because he was by himself. If I had to guess, Jeff likes to do it bigger. He wants to be better. He wants to progress. He's just going to go ahead and knock it out. He's just going to get it done.
They'd run the pipe and the wire and all that stuff and had the stems installed. Jeff's job was to go out that day and install the lights on the stem.
So he goes, he starts doing the ground. He wires the ground, does the neutral, wires all the neutrals. Third is the hot. Now remember, these are on a timer. When Jeff checked them originally, there was no electrical current. But by this time, that timer had flipped. So when Jeff took his wire stripper out to connect to do the hot, as soon as the stripper, that metal, touched the hot wire, that was it. It got him. It went in through his right hand. And electrical current, when it enters something, it has to ground. It's just going to keep circulating until it finds a ground. Well, Jeff was kneeling. He was on his knees. So it went in through his right hand, into his arm, down his chest, stopping his heart, and grounded at his knees. Died instantly, and he was probably gone before he ever knew what hit him. Crash team came out as soon as it happened, pretty much. Crash team came out and tried to help him, but there was no helping him. He was gone. Jeff did leave behind a family. He left behind 2 daughters and then me. I'm his wife, Whitney Short. And you'll never, ever, ever imagine what it's like to go through something like that.
The phone call that I received with when Jeff lost his life was Keith Kroll calling and saying, "Tim, we've had a really bad accident, and the hospital won't tell me what's going on, but I'm afraid Jeff may have been electrocuted."
And these 3 nurses grab me, and there's one on each side of me and one in the front of me, and they sit me down, and they start telling me what has happened. And the whole time in my head, I'm thinking, she's not about to say what she's fixing to say. This is a bad episode of Grey's Anatomy. There's no way. This is not about to happen. There's just no way that she's fixing to say this. Well, she said it. She said, "We did everything we could, but we couldn't save him."
And she was frantic and upset and out of control for a little bit, as anyone would be on hearing that, and wanted to go spend time with Jeff.
And you can never imagine what it's like to walk into a room and see your spouse on a hospital bed and he is gone. He doesn't look like he's sleeping. You can tell he is gone. It's, every dream that you ever had for your family is gone. Every plan that you made for the future is gone. Everything. I mean, even things that you had planned for the next day. We were supposed to go eat lunch the next day together. That was kind of our Friday ritual. Gone. I mean, it's gone. Everything. And you are left with nothing. And then to have to come home and know that the next morning you get to tell your children that their dad is gone. There's no words of wisdom. There's nothing to say. Finally tell Emma the next morning. She did understand that Daddy was with Jesus, that he was going to work on the stars and the moon.
I never want to sit in a room in a hospital and kneel down and have to tell somebody that their spouse is not going to come home. I don't want to ever do that again. I don't want to go to their house and see their kids and know that they're never going to see their father again.
They'll go through their entire life without a father. And he missed Addie's first Christmas. He missed her first birthday. He will miss her first steps. He missed Emma's very first soccer game, and let me tell you, she went toe-to-toe with a boy. She was not scared at all. It was hilarious, and that would have been something that we would have joked about, that we would have talked about. So that, to me, is really the hardest thing.
It hit me hard. I consider him a good friend. I mean, not just at work, but out of work. We hunted together, did stuff together out of work. First time I ever had to deal with a situation of a friend that I worked with getting killed.
When you can put a face with it, it's different. When you know that you've shook that man's hand before, you've chewed his butt before, you've drank a beer with him before, you've went to birthday parties, Christmas parties, things like that. You share good times and bad times with them.
These are guys that have worked with Jeff for years and are his friends and spend time with him on the weekends, spend lots of time with him during the day. And, you know, it's tough.
You didn't have to know him to have that gut-wrenching feeling that you just lost a part of your family.
And I just have to ask myself, is it worth it? And that's the whole purpose of all of this, is just asking yourself, is it worth it?
You got family. You may not have kids, you may not have a spouse, but there's somebody out there that loves you and cares about you and wants you to come home. Maybe not tonight, but they want you to come home. They want to see you.
We need everyone to realize it's more than just about you. It's about your wife, your children, your significant other, your girlfriend. That there's a lot more at stake than I think what a lot of times what people really take into consideration.
When someone passes away, there's no way that they can come back. They're gone, and there's no way to retrieve them. They don't get a second chance. But possibly we can use this accident to get to a much broader number of people and convince them to stop and think, is it worth it?
Because I can tell you, if you look at my life and you look at what we've been through, what we've had to go through, it's not even close to worth it. It's not even around the corner from worth it.
You can teach Joe how to use the hammer. You can teach him what to do with the hammer. But when you put it in his hand, you can't keep him from hitting himself with it. The human factor is going to play in. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We have to be accountable. We have to watch what we do. You have to think about what you do every minute.
Safety isn't something we have to do. Safety is something that we live by day in, day out. It's at the forefront of every thought process we have.
If you can honestly say that, yes, my children need me around, my wife needs me, my whoever needs me there, please go down the other path. Please make the other decision. Because I'm telling you, I'm living proof that it's just not worth the risk. It's just not.
I think there's that idea of it won't happen to me, or I can't be hurt, or I'm better than that, I'm quicker, I'm faster. It's that bravado.
It can happen to you. It can happen to you. You can be that guy. Jeff was a quiet guy. Jeff was a guy that he loved his job. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to be an electrician. He wanted to do the right thing. Why we missed that step, I'm not sure. But I know that the one thing that Jeff would want more than anything is he wouldn't want it to happen to anybody else. He wants to make sure to know that if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody.
So the next time anybody ever thinks that they are going to take a shortcut, that they want to be the hero, that they want to go bigger and go better and be progressive and get the pat on the back, it is not worth it. If you're afraid that your boss is going to be upset, let him be upset, let him put you in a bad mood, but you get to go home that night.
There's no need to take a shortcut. We don't want you to take a shortcut. We'll pay you not to take a shortcut. Just don't do it. It's not worth it.
there is somebody in your life that loves you and that cares about you and that needs you around. Somebody. And there's just nothing is worth your life. Nothing. Not even your job. There's a million out there. A million. Nothing's worth your life.